Welcome back to the Project Reinvented podcast. I'm your host, Lachlan John McRae. We are in for a ride today as we dive into the heart of men's work and personal transformation. We have got a true powerhouse in the arena. In today's episode, I get to talk to Blase Grinner, who is a true force in men's work, both in Australia and beyond. He has committed to redefining the essence of manhood. Blase is all about shattering stereotypes, proving that being a man is a journey that is rugged, diverse, and deeply personal. He's here to flip the script, showing us that the new way of manhood is about integration, where spirituality meets career, success, fatherhood, and raw, authentic expression of emotion. Now, Blase Grinner is a men's transformational coach who isn't just talking the talk, he is walking the walk. His mission is nothing short of inspiring, to ignite a generation of men who live life by their own rules. In our conversation, Blase spills the beans on his own journey, from addiction to finding spirituality and building genuine connections with other men. We're talking about the nitty-gritty, the hurdles of quitting alcohol, the crucial role of building male bonds, and the game changer that is MindFit. His mission to fortify men's minds and open up their hearts. So please, let's welcome Blase. I've been following your journey for a number of years now, and the wisdom that you have is unbelievable. The content you create is unbelievable. But obviously, to get to this point, you've had to go through a lot of your own difficulties and healing. But if you look at from a perspective of your current understanding, what role did your childhood play in the person you became, particularly the limelight-chasing tradie that you said that you were?
Yeah, man. There's many moments, man. So first, I'll just start with like the environment I was born into. So Kiwi born, but grew up in Australia. So in Australia, there's a massive drinking culture. And so the media here, they've got this a beer in Australia called VB. And all through childhood, all the media would say, if you've done a hard day's work, you need a big cold beer, and the best cold beer is Vic. And they would just plaster all of this. Alcohol was the thing that you had with celebration. So that limelight chasing was like alcohol was always part of a celebration. And then there was a lot of things that I got to celebrate in my life, milestones and birthdays, all that kind of stuff. But one of the big things that led me to that limelight chasing was rugby league. So I played high level rugby league, and that involved a lot of alcohol as well. And so that limelight chasing was, we'd like chase to be the front man on the footy field and the biggest and the toughest and the strongest and the loudest to get the accolades and the attention from women, and also the pump up from the mates on the sidelines. And then that sort of same methodology and ethos then correlated in to the party days, the party scenes, going to the pub, being the loudest, and all of that kind of stuff. So that was definitely one aspect to it. And then the other one was because Dad left when I was 7, like I was always chasing like an eldership or a father figure. And so I was always looking up to older men, and because I played footy at such a young age with adults, like 14 years old playing, 15 years old playing A grade, I was always aspiring to these older men. So then that limelight chasing was like a way that I got attention from them and was able to be seen and liked and revered and brought into the group. So yeah, it was there's a lot of like pain that I was trying to mask as well, which I sort of discovered in my early 20s. Looking back within hindsight, at the time I didn't really know I was deeply depressed, like unconsciously or subconsciously I knew. But yeah, it was just always just chasing the thing that was going to make me feel the best, and that was like really short-term gratification, which was the limelight, this fake happiness, if you will.
Yeah, because when I heard you say that, it initially sparked something in myself, because I could identify with being that person. And when I look at it now, it was exactly what you said. It was a lot of pain. I was too scared for people to see what was going on inside. I like you, my
Mhm.
father left when I was 4, and I had a stepdad who was an amazing figure, but my mum never let him really play a role in the kind of the. She took the biggest role, but
Mhm.
that fear, and I think it's still around now, even though that we're getting men to kind of maybe talk a little bit more. But it was that feeling of being scared for people to see that I was hurting, or I was feeling depressed, or I was showing any type of emotion that wasn't acceptable in the how to be a man category.
Mhm.
And when I heard you say that, I was like, wow, that was so so aligned with how I was feeling. So
Mhm.
when you kind of realized that, what age were you when you started to figure, I can't live like this anymore?
27. It was a long road, man. Really long road. Something you just triggered for that of me too, man. When we're talking about like men opening up, I started thinking about like on the football field, if we saw someone that was vulnerable. So if he was hurt, if he was a weak link, we'd attack him and we'd like just put all the traffic at him. On the job sites, if you were vulnerable or weak, you'd just be ridiculed and put down. At school, that's what the bullies went for, was all that. So vulnerability was always seen as that sign of weakness. Um, and that, yeah, so it was that vulnerability. It was when I was 27, that I'm like, man, this is just fucking exhausting trying to pretend that I've got everything together when inside I'm just hollow. I'm crying myself to sleep when no one's there. I'm fuck, and this is a real thing, man. It's only been recently that I can actually sit on my own. I was scared to be on my own. I was like petrified because of this thing, man, that I'm pointing for the listeners, pointing to my head. My mind was so vicious. I had no self love. It was just beating me up. And then majority of times because I was hungover or coming off the gear, and the come downs were so vicious, bro. But yeah, it was really interesting because it was the when that realization came through was at the pinnacle of the limelight chasing. It was I took way too much gear, and then the veil of reality got opened up, and I saw so much stuff, man, that was petrifying, and started my spiritual journey because yeah, it was I ended up getting locked in a padded cell. Yeah, so not sure if you want to
Yeah,
explore how that happened, but yeah,
yeah.
that was the moment when I was 27.
This is the whole idea for this podcast is to shine light on these kind of topics. Like, how did you end up in a padded cell?
Mhm.
What was it that
Yeah.
that got you to that point? Because myself, I was suicidal. I tried to kill myself on more than one occasion, and I've been in the crisis
Mm.
unit. So there's so many guys who are scared to talk about it because of how they will be judged. But somebody like you who is helping, hundreds of thousands of men, you're across the other end of the
Mm.
world, and I've been following you for a number of years, and you've inspired me in so many different ways. That's the whole reason I've asked you to come on here. But to think, look at you and what you're doing now, then you know
Mm.
from where you've came from, that's a massive, massive transition. So what took you to a padded
100%.
cell?
Yeah, man. It literally seems like a lifetime ago. It's interesting that there's people from my late 20s, and then I'm 40 next year, and as I've reinvented myself, some of them have come back into my life, and they're like, "Dude, like, you're not even the same man. Like, not even. It's a complete polar opposite of like the dude that I was." So yeah, back when I was 27, man, deeply, deeply depressed, super insecure, super jealous, um, and just wanted people around me. And so we went to this music festival, and I literally felt like was it Dan Bazarian? Is that his name? The
Yeah.
dude with the beard, and yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's what I hung around, man. Was all these fake people, so chicks with fake tits and fake lips and fake hair, and that's how I'd rock out the festivals because I was the man, you know what I mean, with the hottest chicks. But then inside, just so insecure, bro. Just like a little boy, man, lost. And so that at that festival was the first time I tried acid and had an amazing time. It was really beautiful. After party was amazing. And so this limelight chasing, the next week, I'm like, I want that again. I want that same feeling again. I want to feel like the man, have everyone there. And it was just, everyone was around me. I was the center of attention. So I got everyone to come to my place, bought some decks, got everyone over, all the same crew. But this time I'm like, oh, well, I wonder what happens if I have double the amount of stuff that I had. So I had 2 tabs of acid, snorted 2 ecstasy pills in front of everyone, showboating. We all went out to this nightclub, got VIP for everyone. So we're up in this thing. And I just remember, man, there's Calvin Harris track drop. So we're in VIP, all these friends and hanger-oners were there. And I remember thinking to myself, because I stood up on the railing looking down at all the people that were below, just in the normal section, thinking, I fucking made it. I remember how egotistical, I fucking made it to the top. And then all the gear kicked in. And I was just like, whoa, what the fuck's going on? So, yeah, went outside. And it was so interesting, dude, because there was this homeless man there right outside of this big nightclub in the Brisbane, in the Valley. And I'd end up having a chat to him, and I started freaking out because what I could see was like entities, and like they looked like gremlins attached to people. So I could see all this stuff that was going on, man. And so I started chatting to this homeless dude, and it was like some of the most conscious conversations I've ever had. And then the maitre d' of the nightclub, like, hey, man, you can't be sitting here with this homeless dude. You've got to get out. You've got to go. I'm like, I'm not going. I'm just here with him. I remember dropping my wallet like 4 or 5 times, man. And I had like heaps of cash in there, and he just kept giving it back to me. And I was just like, I just remember catching these glimpses of like, man, this dude's like an angel. Like, I just remember feeling there's something about this person. So they rang some police officers. So 4 police officers turned up, and I was like, superhero, man. I just rolled 4 police officers. So they called for more backup. And it took 9 police officers to put me in a paddy wagon. By the time the paddy wagon turned up, though, I started to believe that I was God, like literally believe I was God, that I'd created everything. And so I remember one of the things that I wanted to test, well, if I'm God, I should be able to stop traffic. And I remember putting my hands like that in 4 lanes in Brisbane, and all the traffic stopped. I walked out into the middle of the road, and there was sparkles and everything all over the cars. And then I walked back. Not sure how fast that happened within my mind and what I saw, but I literally, to this day, it was like a direct experience. I believe wholly and solely I did that. Anyway, so yeah, get to the padded cell, get to the jail, and it was like they were real heavy with me, man. So they put me in this padded cell because there was a lot of violence between me and the police officers. And then the experience that happened was, this is back when I was like 12 years ago, like ISIS was really big, and they were showing a lot of decapitations and stuff on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. And they were really heavy with me. So when they put me in the padded cell, this dude put his foot on my neck and took like my chain off and my watch, and he was just being really, really, really heavy with me. Then part of the hallucination with the acid was in Brisbane Valley, there's a lot of like crackheads and meth addicts and all that kind of stuff. So there was other people in padded cells that were locked up, and they started like screaming coming down. So there was like chicks screaming, dudes screaming, and like horrific. Like it was yuck to be around, man. But I believed that everyone that was screaming were my family members getting murdered by ISIS. I'd created that story in my head. So I'm saying goodbye to my mum and my sister, and my other sister, and my brother, and I'm saying goodbye to everyone. And then the last bit, I just remember is that they had me pushed into the floor, and so they're not in the room right now, but this is like the trip I was having, and I'm like, I'm about to they're going to take my head. I'm about to die. And in that moment, I just remember flashing through the 27 years of my life. I'm like, fuck, man, I've had a brilliant life. I've got to go all over the country, like all over Australia, New Zealand, play football. Got some amazing friends, like a beautiful family. Cool. I let go. It's okay. So I like surrendered, man, and literally died. And when I woke up, I was in this massive big room, man, and there was like hundreds of people that I knew. But it was just their bodies. So it was their torsos, their head, their arms. They didn't have any legs, and around them was a bit hazy. And then people said, hey, man, good to see you. What's up, bro? And it was just like this massive big party. And was in that realm or dimension for, I don't know, it felt like 10 minutes. And then I snapped to reality. And here I am sitting in the middle of a padded cell, in the middle of a jail. And I'm in the full lotus, man. So like the Buddha pose. So my hands were like that, and I was meditating. So what I'd done is at some point in that padded cell, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and meditate on acid. And then that's a hallucination I went through. And so what I experienced in that dimension though was so fucking real, man. Like it was so real that I'm like, what the fuck was that? And so for me, that was my spiritual awakening or spiritual crisis. Is like, I need to figure out what the fuck that was. And I'd never meditated in my life. 27 years, never meditated. And that trip lasted for 3 days. So I'm not going to talk about the next 2.5 days. It's a long story. Though as I came back into my body and back to this planet, I'm like, what was that? And so that's when I went on a journey, man. So I was still in construction. I was managing teams. And the only people that I knew that meditated were monks, Buddhist monks, because I learned about Buddhist monks in school. So I just went, I've got a heap of Buddhist books here, man. So I just went and like on Amazon and just bought like all these books, got them sent to home. So I'd go to work and then I'd just start reading about Buddhism and what was enlightenment. What I wanted to figure out what the fuck that thing was, man. And so I just read and read and read for like maybe 6-8 months. And then I found a temple in Brisbane. So I started practicing Buddhism in Brisbane, but I didn't tell my mates for that vulnerability piece because I told them that I was going sober because I found out that the monks don't eat meat, they don't drink alcohol. So I'm like, cool, I'm going to go sober. And I remember how much shit my mates hung on me, man. Like that, like who are you going to be if you don't drink? It's like that. It was like such a persona of that limelight chaser that was me and alcohol. And it was really interesting that their wives were the ones that were encouraging me. Back then, my nickname was Sugar, and they're like, "Sugar, you can do this, man. If you be sober, this is awesome." And it wasn't until like 4 months in that these dudes actually like, "Oh, you're serious about this shit?" And so I'm like, I'm not even going to tell these dudes I'm practicing Buddhism because they're just going to pay me out. So I just make stuff up that I was hanging with my missus or like but I was practicing there for about a year before, and then I moved to the sunny coast, and then I found a temple up here, and then I was going to that temple for about 2 years, and then met my wife, and then it was really interesting. So I went to take a vow to become a Buddhist man. I haven't really told too many people that, but my wife and we'd been dating like 2 months. So I took her up to the temple for this ceremony for me to become a Buddhist. And the first day, they were talking a lot about some Dharma, which is Buddhist education knowledge and that kind of stuff. And I asked a pretty loaded question that I'd been sitting with for a long time. And then the nun that gave an answer, the answer went for about an hour. And I remember I'm a man of my word, and like to commit to these vows, I'm like, man, I'm going to fucking break them like so many times. So, and the life that I want to lead and live, I don't think that I can be like boxed by a religion. So I ended up saying no. But yeah, man, that was the story, bro, of like why, what was the turning point. But then that turning point for the first 3 years, I didn't talk to anyone about it, trying to figure it out on my own, which I feel so many of us men get in that spot of like that lone wolf of like, we want to change or we want something different, but where the fuck do we go? How do we do that? And it's a lonely journey.
Exactly, bro. That's what I was just like listening. That story blows my mind. You know, I've heard like little bits of it, but I've not heard the whole thing, which is amazing. See, when you first kind of stepped away from the alcohol, you know, how difficult was that for you? Or, you know, because obviously this is your life. You're the life and soul of the party. You're partying all the time, you know, and you're taking a step back. Was it just that drive to find out what this experience was? You know, did you have to battle with yourself to stop?
No, oh, fuck yeah, man. Alcohol's a demon for me, man, and still is. And so in the past 7 years, I probably past 7 years, 3.5, 3.5 or 4 of those years I've been sober. And with all the men's work that I do, we look at advices, so like porn, alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, Netflix, whatever that vice is. And for me, it's been like always alcohol. So I'll go stints, man. So cool, I'll do a 3-month stint or a 6-month stint of sober. And then after I've done the commitment, then the alcohol will come back in. And if I don't have really firm boundaries, it just turns into binge drinking again, man. And then I'm like, fuck, I need to have another commitment. It's interesting, man. So I did a year sober. So I did a year, and then there was a year that I wasn't wasn't sober. Then I went another year, and then at the 9-month mark, I decided that I was going to have a drink, which was the past 2 months. And so I literally have only just recommitted last week with my men's team that I'm doing another year sober. It was really interesting, man. And I unpacked this for weeks and weeks and weeks with my men's team. Because I really wanted, I've just bought my first house at 39 years old, and there's a big story, the money story and everything I've had to go through to get to this point. And all I wanted to do was sit down and have a whiskey with two of my really good mates. That's all I wanted to do, just to celebrate that moment. And so many people challenge me. It's like, well, why do you have to have the whiskey? And I'm like, I don't have to. I just really thoroughly enjoy whiskey. I enjoy the taste, I enjoy the conversations. I enjoy a cigar as well. But it's a sometimes thing. And so it's nice that I was able to do that, have that moment, and then I've just gone back sober again, man. So to answer your question, it's been really fucking hard, man. I remember one time, and it was one of the first times I committed to really going sober. And I think we had the two boys then. And I went to 1770, this really beautiful place in the sunny in Queensland, bro. The sun sets on the water. Took my family up there, got an Airbnb, and just like, just go take the family on a holiday to celebrate this sobriety. What I didn't realize, the Airbnb I booked was straight above this really beautiful tavern. And on Sunday, I had a Sunday sesh, live music. It was just the exact beautiful scenario where you'd have a beer. It was like on the water, on sunset, on holiday, live music, really beautiful, chilled crowd. There's no dickheads. There's all families. And the scream that was coming from inside my body, man, to have a drink, it was so loud and vicious. It was like, it was like getting off drugs. It was really, really, really hard. And the way I got through that, man, was just went into one of my men's teams and just did a Facebook Live and just openly just said, I'm fucking struggling. And like, I remember I was really angry as well. Like I felt like I was missing out. And then it was just really beautiful, man. One of the men was he was watching their live, and he just said, hey man, keep going. You got this. You're inspiring me too. I wish I could give up the booze. And it's like, fuck, cool. If I can just keep going and just get through today, maybe I could help other men as well. So then it became that it was just one day at a time, man. And through over the past 7 years, that's how I go when I do be sober. Is like I'll make a commitment of like 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever it is. But then I just take it one day at a time, man, and just make alcohol the demon or the enemy. It's like, not fucking today. And it was really interesting too, bro. It wasn't, I had a really, especially being a men's coach and coming into this line of work, I had a really, it was really challenging for me to say that I had a problem with alcohol openly and on social media, and to my friends and family, that kind of stuff, because I felt like something that was bigger than me and that this thing had me. But it was the liberation I got when I actually said, hey, do you know what? It's a fucking demon. It's got me. It just, all the weight lifted off me, that I didn't have to fucking hide anymore. Like, yeah, man, it was a problem, and it had been a really big problem in my life.
That's the thing. See, alcohol, same for me. It's a demon. You know, I was a full-blown alcoholic and an addict for, well, I admitted it when I was 30. I'm 45 next week. But it was the difference with my friends. When I decided to quit, they were thankful because they'd seen how dark to the places it took me. You know, it was a really bad place. And I haven't had that. I haven't even counted the days or anything, but like you, I take it one day at a time. But I know it's coming up round about 5 years. I think it was 5 years in the Novemberish time, and but the only thing that I miss is what you were saying, is that camaraderie. You know, that was sitting with the boys, having a drink and having the conversation and the fun. And I found now that when they're still all drinking, and for me, I feel quite lonely a lot of the time, and not like as in poor me lonely, as in connecting with, because I think it's important for men to bond with men, and we'll get into it because this is what you do with your work, and a lot of the stuff that you have posted and you talk about, it's inspired me to actually look at this, like even some of the posts which you do, short posts, and it prompts me to start questioning, myself and the situation I'm in, and it's difficult because I'm trying to balance a family, two beautiful children, I have an amazing wife, and I know that I can never drink again because my wife would leave me, but I don't want to anyway. But it's finding that, that connection with my friends. That's what I miss,
Mm.
And so how did you kind of deal with that? How did you deal with, not having that relationship with your friends?
It was really fucking hard, man. So it was like that dark night of the soul I had to go through. And so I no longer talk to any of my childhood friends, these men. And like, fuck, dude, I just found out literally last week that one of my friends, he just did some time, like just in the last this year. Some of those men, that one of them did jail. He went there for 14 years, man. Another man I was knocking around with, he shot a police officer and then killed a police officer and turned a gun on himself. Like, so these are the men I was hanging around, man. And so I needed to like get the fuck out because I was next, man. I'm so blessed that I dodged the bullet. So I moved to the sunny coast, and when I moved to the sunny coast, I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any friends, male friends. I just had a girlfriend. And so the way that I did that was I was very clingy, man. And I hadn't really delved deeply into men's work then. This is when I was like 30. And I just remember that I do everything with her and all of her friends and her guy friends and her chick friends. But then when she wanted to go do stuff with the girlfriends, I'm like, oh, fuck, what am I going to do for the day? Fuck, I've got like 10 hours to fill. And back then I didn't have a hobby. Like footy wasn't there anymore. It was just, I was a tradie. I was in construction. That's what I did. And so the love that I picked up was surfing, man. So surfing was a savior for me. I had something to go do that was outdoors, that was exercise, that I was really shit at, that I could get better. And there was a documentary from, it was, fuck, Mark Occhilupo, Mark Gasnier, and Pete Murray were on a boat. And I watched this documentary as about surfing. It was like 2 a.m. And they started with, we were talking about spirituality and how surfing's connected to all of this thing. And they're talking about alcohol and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, fuck, maybe I could do that because everything they're talking about resonates. And so, yeah, I fell in love with surfing, man. So that was a really big anchor for me in those years. But then it came a point, like you're saying too, man, that I really craved that male connection, that camaraderie, that brotherhood. And that's when I found men's work and stepped into that. But it was really interesting. It was a moment, a really humbling moment. I created a movement here on the sunny coast. There's like 500 men in our local chapter. I was running circles every week, having like 30 men every week turn up the circles. I had a lot of online stuff that I was doing. There's like maybe a few thousand people in our online communities as well. So I was connected with all of these men, and all these men knew so much about me. They're holding space about me, knew my dreams, aspirations. But and there was this a peyote ceremony that was coming, and myself and about 10 men got asked to cut down the bamboo for the teepee, which was a deep honor for me. And then afterward, there was a men's circle. I'm like, awesome, what a beautiful celebration. So I went and did that, and then I remember a few men were going to do that. There was a heap of men going to do the men's circle. There's a heap heavy lifting men's work. And there's a few men going back to another property where I used to run my retreats. They're going to sit around a bonfire and have a joint. I'm like, fuck, I just want to do that. I just want to go play and relax and just fucking laugh. And there was this, I missed that so much, man. So I went to that bonfire. I chose to do that. The people of the men's circle, they were shitty that I didn't go. I remember feeling that guilt of like letting people down. But then, yeah, there's about 6 of us at the fire, man. And I had a joint, the medicine kicked in, and then I just started bawling my eyes out. And they're like, what's the matter? I'm like, I love all you guys so much, but not one of you guys have ever been in my house. I've never invited you around my home. So I had all of these male connections, yet I still had these men at arm's length because of how much pain and hurt me letting go of my childhood mates I went through, because they all attacked me. They put me down about, they came for me on social media, dude. It was like horrific. And so that pain was like really still, I didn't realize how much it affected me. And there's this realization smoking that joint that I hadn't let any men deeply into my life, into my like close life, into the circle. So I was surrounded by men, but not really. It was like this facade, man. So I deeply resonate. It was a journey, man. It was a really interesting journey.
So, letting men in, and this is after you've started men's work. Is this when after you've actually started on the journey? of helping
Yeah,
men?
man. Yeah, and yeah, 100%. And so like these men, like when I say let them in, like the men at the men's circles, and like I'd catch up with them here and there, and we do some face to face stuff. Like they knew everything about me. Like I deeply let them in, like vulnerability wise, but then the safety of my own home and my own kingdom. Like I didn't have any mates, so it was Blase the facilitator, and there was this it was like they needed me and I needed them. It wasn't like like we don't need like I feel true mates. We don't need each other. It's just there because we are. It's like love. That's what love is. Where the relationship that I'd built was there was always the facilitator, the coach, and clients, and then we formed brotherhood from that. Um, and it was interesting that it was one of the men's circles. I remember it super clearly because I'd declared openly that my wife and I were going to get relationship counselling. And it was like a really awkward share for me. And we're in the car park, and there's this bro, Leon, and he was just super interesting. He had a son the same age as me. He was a martial artist. He was super switched on, spiritual dude, did plant medicine. So I just went up to him in the car park. I was like, hey, bro, do you want to be my friend? And he's like, dude, I've been wanting to ask you for 6 months. I just didn't know how to fucking ask you. And I'm like, well, how the fuck do we do this? What's your number, man? And so we exchanged numbers. And he was the first man that got me off the horse of like building a friendship, man, because I hadn't done it before. I hadn't done it as a grown adult. You know what I mean? And it felt super. It was fun, literally like it felt like masturbating left-handed, dude. It was so awkward at the start. It was so hard, man. And then the thing too was because of all these brothers that I had in my life that we sort of needed each other for accountability and stuff. It was interesting how much I'd forgotten just to text Leon. I was like, hey man, how you doing? Just for like, rather than just wanted to check in on him. I remember one time he rang, like it was about 3 weeks after I'd asked him to be my friend. 5 minutes in the phone call, I'm like, hey man, what do you need? And he's like, dude, just relax, bro. I'm your friend, man. I'm your friend. I don't need anything off you, bro. Just chill the fuck out. I rang you just because I wanted to see what you're fucking doing. But that's how I was wired, man. So yeah, and yeah, it's interesting that dynamic of myself and Leon and having to build a bond and a friendship. We take that and this how awkward I felt and Leon felt, and we take that into our men's work and our men's teams, and we have the way we run our buddy systems is pretty cool.
Yeah. So, what was the steps to actually getting into the men's work? How did you transition from being this tradie and because you know what I've heard is like you've worked with some influential people in the space. It's not you've not just started and saying I'm going to be a men's coach. You've actually been and done some work, and you've worked along some the kind of pioneers of men's work. So how did you transition from that?
Into men's work?
Yeah.
Yeah, wifey, bro, my wife. So I started with personal development. She did, and for any women listening to this, and for any men, for any women, this is how you get your man into men's work. For any men listening, I'm going to share my thing because I was a little boy kicking and screaming, and I just want to let you know that back then she was my partner, not my wife, but my wife saw something in me that I couldn't see within myself, and she called that forward. And if she didn't call that forward, I would never be where I am today. And I have all of this journey and this path. Like she opened a door for me and gave me a polite kick up the ass, which I needed. So yeah, my wife, the way she did it, man. So she was following Preston Smiles for ages, and she's done personal development for like fucking 20 years, man. She's been in it way longer than I have. And yeah, so Preston Smiles had this. She goes, have a look at this dude. And he's got had a YouTube channel, and there's a video about calling in your one. And we just met, and it super resonated about how we met each other, that kind of stuff. And the way that he was delivering content was, I'm like, oh, this seems pretty cool. Like it was a lot different to the Buddhism stuff that I'd been reading. And so it was just really entertaining, and it really hit these like trigger points within me. And then about 2 days later, she came back. She's like, oh, he's put a new video out. So we watched it together and we had these discussions. And then she just let it go. And so then I like Google this dude and fucking stalked him on Facebook. And so I just started consuming his content because I liked and resonated with it. And then about a month later, and I think she'd already had this planned anyway, but they were coming to Australia, Preston and his wife, Alexi Panos, and they were running a personal development workshop called The Bridge. So she bought me and her a ticket for it for Christmas. And so she's like, I've got this thing. Do you want to come with me? I'm like, oh, no, fuck. I don't want to go to this fucking thing, man. But like, yeah, cool. Like, I'll go because like that dude seems pretty cool. I like what he's putting out, but I'll come. And then around the same time, so I think I said yes, and it was about 6 or 8 weeks later that the thing was. So I said yes, and then we had a massive nani, bro, wifey and I, well, my partner. And I spat the dummy and drove back down to Brisbane, man, and got in contact with all the old mates and relapsed. I was clean, man. I hadn't touched any gear for like 6-7 years, man. Went and found my old best friend, man. We blew ourselves out on ice, went drinking all night. I ended up in hospital. Like, he pushed me. We're fucking around the street. He pushed me over and I cracked my skull. So I actually lost the sense of taste and the taste out of my mouth because there's this nerve in my ear. And then I was out cold, and when I woke up, I was in hospital. Like, fuck, let's get out of here. So I left, and because I left without signing out, the police were looking for me because they had a head trauma. And I don't know how, man, but they turned up at my mate's doorstep in Brizzy. But they also rang my partner. They found that because must have been I put my address as living with her. So then she's ringing me like, fuck, what's happened, that kind of stuff. I'm high as fuck on ice, really drunk, and I tried to drive back home. So Brisbane, the Sunshine Coast is like an hour and a half drive. And I got like halfway, man. I had to pull over, and her and her mum come pick me up. And it was the first sort of time in my life that, other than my mum, that there were people that didn't judge me for how bad I was. Like they brought me closer. They didn't banish me. And yeah, so I sobered up like 2 days later, and yeah, she goes, "Okay, you're out. I don't want you in this fucking house. Go sort your shit out." And that was, so I was at a mate's couch. I was at a mate's place on the couch. I'm like, fuck, I need help. That's when I saw a psychologist. So him and I started talking a lot, and got to a really beautiful point. I brought up this bridge program, and he's like, "Are you going to go?" I'm like, "Fuck that! She's trying to change me." Right. And so this is what I said at the start. So, men, this is the little boy coming out. She's trying to fucking change me. And he's like, "Dude, what you're focusing on what's the worst that can happen. What happens if you flip your mindset and I came at it with like, what's the best thing that can happen if you go to this thing? Like, she's already paid for it for free, man. Like, you just get to go." And so he goes, "What is the best thing that could happen?" I'm like, "Well, I could get control of this anger that's consuming me. Maybe I could get over my insecurities. Maybe I could trust myself and men again. Maybe that there's something else for this life because I don't really like in this construction game anymore. Maybe I can fucking find happiness too, man." And he's like, "Cool. Well, why don't you just go with that intention?" Like, cool. So yeah, then it was like, cool, let's go. We went to it together. Preston ripped me apart, fucking blew me to pieces. Got my fucking ass handed to me in a really beautiful way. And then the next week they had one called Extreme Leadership. So we put that on the credit card. We went back the second weekend later. And then it wasn't too long after that, man, I left construction and I ended up creating a men's movement with Preston. So yeah, it's a Conscious Man Brotherhood. We built that, and my first coach was Jetty Azuma, who's got the Rising Man, and got to walk side by side with those men for several years. Man, there was about 3 or 4 years we did that. So yeah, that's how I got into personal development and men's work, man. But yeah, it was my partner.
That's amazing, bro. And now you've got, you kind of got your own movement now, MindFit. So for the men out there, what is men's work? What is men's work, and what does it mean to be mind fit?
Yeah. As men, we know that if we want big muscles, we go to the gym. And so back when I relapsed and smoked ice, and I was like, in that crisis moment, here I am on my mate's fucking couch, met the woman of my dream. She's kicked me out of home. I've relapsed fucking smoking gear. like, what the fuck? Where do I turn to as a man? Like, where do I work on myself? How do I become happier or freer or find confidence? How do I get past this jealousy? And so I started Googling, man. I literally, where the fuck do I go to for help? And everything that come up back then was see a psychologist or psychiatrist. Now, I didn't want to go to a psychiatrist because I didn't want to get on medication. So that's when I went to see a psychologist. He was fucking amazing, and I don't knock psychologists, but he only got me so far. And then, as a man, I want to sink my teeth into some stuff, like, dude. And I was asking him, like, man, and yes, I know that I'm an overachiever, but if I find something and it's fucking working, I want to do more. Like, fuck, this is good, man. Give me something like in between this next 2 weeks. What's something I can do every day? And I was trying to get him to give me these things to do. And it got to a point like, bro, I can't help you anymore. Like, you're good. And I'm like, well, I still don't feel fucking good. And I've only told you about 70% of the truth. And the reason I only told him about 70% of the truth is he sat there and listened to me talk, which was amazing. And it allowed me to open up. But he didn't tell me anything about him fucking self. And
Yeah.
so because of that, I didn't build any trust. I couldn't fully fucking trust him. You know what I mean? And so that's why I love men's work so much. And the way that we teach with the MindFit Gym and the work that we do is there's no man above or below. We've all got shit going on. So myself, the leadership team, we all play full out as well. So that's why Mind and Fit, just like muscles, and we got to keep doing the reps. We got to keep strengthening that. But the biggest aspect of MindFit for us is that it's not just all head, that we actually connect the head to the heart. And so I have that heart-brain connection because that's where we want to be coming from. So not too logical as a man, not too emotional as a man, but right that sweet spot. There's a tattoo here. It's the exact representation, man, from that middle spot. So that's what it means to be mind fit, man. Strengthening and flexing the mind and connecting to our heart.
Amazing. And just for anyone listening, there will be links. We'll talk more about MindFit as we go through, but you will have a link here to connect with Blase and his team. So, when you've got into this kind of men's work, in my experience, I find that many men struggle and they're unclear about the direction or their vision in life or their purpose in life, for lack of a better word. How did you navigate through that, and, looking at your life in a bigger picture? Because when it's all new to you and you're trying to kind of plan for the future, how did you look at that part and say, right, this is the direction I want to go. This is how I'm going to do it. This is what it means to me.
Yep. So I tried to do it by myself at the start, and that was really fucking challenging because I didn't know what I don't know, and people don't know what they don't know. And so I was a tradie, had all of this knowledge from Buddhism, and I'd been doing all this stuff. And I was just like I remember sitting in my ute. I'm like, I'm not sure if this is for me. And this is after we did the extreme leadership with Preston. So I started asking some really big questions of myself, and I started journaling. Who am I? Why am I on this planet? And then I started just journaling. And then around the same time, Preston dropped a men's program called Man Cave. So I went and did that 3-month online program. And so within that, he had frameworks about 10-year vision around purpose, around relationship, around values, about legacy, about direction. So there was things that we would go through and work on to bring all of that up and out of us and then be held accountable. And I remember just having some these men that were coaching me. I'd have these ideas that are like, oh, I want to do this and that. And they would challenge me. And so it was like it was beautiful because these challenges that when they challenged me, they were just seeing if it was, is this the thing I really want to do? Why do I want to do it? And some of the things that I wanted to do in life, what I realized through their help was I was only trying to do it so that my dad was going to be proud of me, or I was only trying to do it so my mum would be proud of me. It wasn't actually what I wanted to do. So that was really interesting, man. And then for me, how I found the men's work thing is I actually built a tourism business. My wife and I built a tourism business. That was the first business that got me out of construction. I'm not sure if you've heard of the process Ikigai, the Japanese process about finding your purpose.
Yep.
Yeah. So I did that without knowing it. It was really interesting. So I journaled on that. What am I really good at? What do I love? What are my superpowers? What does the planet need right now? And actually, the tourism business, I didn't do what the planet needs right now. But then as I had all of these ideas on this paper, I was like, didn't know how could I monetize that? How could I make it? I was still in construction. How could I make a business that could feed the family? And then one night, man, I woke up at like 2 a.m. It's like, create an adventure business, a tourism company. It hits all of the boxes. You bring people together. You're out in nature. And so that was the first business, man. Left construction, put everything into that. We built that, traveled the world with it, which was pretty cool. But then inside of that, when I found men's work, I started doing like men's only adventures. So doing men's hikes and that kind of stuff, which is really cool, man. Because I was one of the first dudes doing all the hikes and that kind of stuff here in southeast Queensland, which was really cool. But yeah, we just take men out bush, and I do men's work and plus adventure. So I was like cross pollination type stuff, which is really cool. And so yeah, that's how. Yeah, man, Blokes Venture. That's how it all came about, man. Yeah, Blokes Venture half day is it all. Yeah, it was just blokes adventure, put them together. Yep, perfect. Manly men coming in and doing an adventure, because the word adventure is an unusual or daring experience. I'm like, oh, cool. Well, that's what fucking men need. Let's go do an adventure. But that's how Blokes Venture was born, bro. But it's really interesting. Like it was all meant to be. So I woke up at 2 a.m, do that. By 7 o'clock that morning, I was just riding for like 5 hours, man. All the business plan came out, all these adventures came out, like it was all there, dude. And it's like, hey, wife, we're gonna go do this. She's like, yep, I'm in. So yeah,
that's amazing.
But then, yeah, the other the thing though that man was so I had this idea, and a lot of men get these ideas, but the thing was that they don't back themselves. They don't take risk because they don't have people around. They don't have a solid fucking support system to back them. So that's what I had. I had like these gangsters in men's work, man, as my teachers and my mentors, and some really solid men in these programs around me. And as I'm processing all this and researching everything, that they were giving me advice of like how to start a business and do this kind of stuff. And so I had some mentors around me that were helping me along the way. So it wasn't just me trying to figure this out. There was times I was like, fuck, man, I'm not sure if I should do this, because my wife was pregnant with our first child. Like I remember it all went south too. Back then I didn't know too much about business. It was about 7 years ago. So I remember putting like 20 grand into marketing, and we hadn't even run an adventure yet. I hadn't even done all this. It was just buying shirts and all this kind of stuff. And I hadn't even done a retreat. So I was just really, really immature with business. And I put a coaching program out to try and make some more money, and it fucking failed miserably, dude. I had one person sign up. I had to give them the money back to this group program, and just felt like a failure. So I wanted to throw the whole thing in and just go back on the tools. But yeah, these men were just really beautiful just to hold me accountable and keep me on path. And one of the biggest things that was my downfall is I was comparing myself. So here I am, first time, it was actually the second time that I went out in business for my own, but the very first time sort of left construction to go out in business on my own, and I'd failed, and I thought, oh, I'm going to pack it up. But these men was like, dude, that's business, bro. We just dust ourselves off and go again. But yeah, what I was doing, I was comparing myself to these other men that had been coaching for 10 years, 15 years, and wanted to be there straight away, not realizing I needed to sharpen my teeth. I'd had to learn, and that was the lesson for me. So that's when I became part-time coach. So I was in a high visi on job sites and started shooting social media. And it was really interesting because up until then, everyone thought that I was just a coach, because I never showed them my construction background, how I was actually providing and paying the mortgage and feeding the family. And it wasn't until I showed everyone all of me, and it was openly on job sites doing the stuff at Smoko and everything while everyone's in watching social media. I was making social media. That's where the business sort of started to take off, man, because then I was just me. I was authentically me. This tradie that was a coach that wanted to get out of construction, and I wasn't hiding it, man. So that's how it all took off.
That's, and to hear that, it's amazing, because I think I've done the exact same thing, trying to compare myself to even people like yourself, and I've had a couple of failed attempts. But that authenticity, how important is it, for men to understand that they are enough? They just have to, believe, they just have to let people see them for who they are, and and take that risk. And because I'm a big believer is that people don't dream big enough. They only think about what they think is possible, and a lot of time they don't think outside of what they believe is possible. So it's to encourage men to dream bigger, and
Yeah.
to, like you said, you cut your teeth and you got back in it. You wanted to quit, but how many men? And that's what you help people with, right? Is how many men just have that one attempt, they fail, and then they say, "Oh, that's not good." Whereas if your dream's big enough and you want to keep pushing to it, how important is that? It's just to keep going and just not quitting.
100%, man. Because that's what the coaches, the mentors, and the men in this men's work space, that's what they kept saying to me. Nothing is below you when you're chasing your purpose. And nothing's below you, man. Nothing's below you. Like, if you want this fucking bad enough, you'll fucking find a way, dude. And I had to, bro. There was a time that I had 3 part-time jobs. I was towing caravans from the Sunshine Coast to the Gold Coast, so 3 hours or 6-hour round trip. One day a week, I was back on the screed, and this was the big one, man, because I was a boss in construction. I was a site foreman, then went to back on the screed as a concreter. So I'd like dropped massive amounts of pay, and then here I am going from a shot caller to then a labourer. So I had to work through all of that kind of stuff. And it was really interesting that one of my coaches said to me, he's like, bro, if you want to help men, and there's these concreters, like, are they like manly men? I'm like, dude, like a lot of people in Australia call them concreters. And he's like, if you could get those dudes opening up and talking on a job site, how much easier is that going to be for you to be a coach? How much easier is going to be for you to be relatable? I'm like, fuck. So here I am back on the screed in construction, concreting, knowing, and they reminded me that I'm on fucking purpose. This is all a stepping stone to get me to become a really good coach in the men's workspace. And within maybe 3 weeks, I had this crew, man, talking about their dreams. I had concreters that were fully fucking tatted up, man. And I'm like, what if you weren't doing this, man? What were you doing? And this massive big dude was like, bro, I'd love to have a florist. And it was like, I love flowers. For a big burly tradie to say that for all of these men, man, it was so cathartic. And it was beautiful because I told them, I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to be here. This is what I want to be doing. And they were super fucking supportive of it, man. I've just started jiu-jitsu 7 months ago. And one of those concreters from back then, he's training at the gym, man. And so we've come back together and got to see each other. And it's just like so fucking good to see that dude, bro. But yeah, why I'm saying all that is I had people in my ear telling me not to fucking quit. And just kept reminding me that nothing was below me. But everything at that point, I was very intentional with the things I was saying yes to. So the concreting, it was easy, quick cash. It was a skill set I had, and I could pick and choose the days I wanted to work. Towing the caravans, I was listening to podcasts for 6 hours learning about business and how to start my own business and learning about money and finances. And then I did 1 day a week in a tourism company here in my local town because we had a tourism business. So why not fucking work in the tourism business? That's the big thing to learn about my business. So I was very intentional where I put myself. But I felt like a failure because I had 3 part-time jobs. It wasn't really quote unquote stable, or it wasn't like didn't have all the bells and whistles, that kind of stuff. But it was the happiest I've ever been, man. But if it wasn't for those men in my life, pushing me and challenging me and keep me on path, I would have quit. I would have tapped out so many times, man. And there's also someone else I have to mention right now is my wife, especially going in business with myself, because she's been in business for a decade longer. She's been in business, I think since she's been like 21 for herself. And so there's been many, many, many times that I've wanted to tap out in business. And I remember the very first time it's got to this point and turned to my wife at dinner. I'm like, have you ever wanted to quit doing what you do? And she's like, yeah, all the fucking time. I'm like, how do you reframe? How do you get yourself back in the game? And she goes, I just remind myself, like, it's either work for myself or what's the opposite of that. I remember sitting at the dinner table and like I didn't want to do social media anymore, sick of doing the emails and the nighttime coaching. And then I'm like, I could do all of that or I could go back on the screen. or I could go back to construction. I'm like, yeah, fuck that, man. Get the tail out between your legs. Stop playing victim. Get back in the fucking game, man. So she's been a beautiful, like, just this beautiful, like, essence in my ear as well. So I've got like, really solid men, but she's always give me some sound advice here and there as well, man.
That's amazing too, because I'm blessed to have a wife who supported me, and I couldn't be here today if it wasn't for her. You know, many women would have
Mm-hmm.
left my ass a long time ago, but like
Mm-hmm.
you said that she seen something in you that you couldn't see in yourself, and that was the exact same for
Yep.
me. I often wonder, why did she not leave me back then? And we've got two beautiful kids, but see, when all of this here, you know, I with the men that I've worked with in the past, I find a lot of these men, they don't know their values. You know, they don't
Mm-hmm.
know their personal values. And I know that this is something that you talk a lot about. You've actually got a free download for people, which is
Mm-hmm.
understanding their personal values. So how did
Mm-hmm.
you discover your personal values, and how did you start implementing them in your daily life?
Yeah, man. So the first time I learnt my values was in one of those workshops from Preston. And there's a gentleman by the name of Emil Stevenson. He's a coach over in, he lives in Bali, but yeah, he was just amazing with values and self love. And so, yeah, that was the first time. Actually, I lie. I did learn my values when I was 17 in a leadership training at school. I remember doing them then, but the way that they taught us, it didn't give me anything to directly sink my teeth into to keep it going. Whereas Emil, yeah, he taught me some processes. I unlocked my values. And then he gave me some, oh, yeah, me and everyone in the room, some accountability to do. And so I started doing that accountability of like really checking in with myself once a week of like, how am I living into my values? But with him and there's other couple of coaches that along the way, we started digging deeper into, okay, cool, that's your value, but what does that mean? And starting to really understand what that meant. And then I remember getting asked, like, what are your values, man? And I'd like stumble and stutter, and I couldn't really remember off by heart. So then I started realizing, well, man, like we unconsciously lived by these. I need to be living consciously by these. I need to be making my decisions from my values. And then that's when I really fell in love with the process of really knowing my values consciously. And I have a big fucking believement that every kid should be taught this in school, because it's like it's our moral compass as a man. Like when we have our values locked and loaded, this is exact where we get to make decisions from. And if we have a vision, then it's like, cool, we've got a compass and we've got a map. We know where we're going. So we're a man on purpose and we're walking a path. And that it seems pretty simple. And yeah, I won't go down the rabbit hole of why the governments aren't teaching kids in school the value systems and how to live by their values. But yeah, that's why I feel it's so important, man. And I've had to make some really fucking big decisions, man. The past 7-8 years, some massive decisions of like gut wrenching decisions and I'm like, how as a man do I make this decision? Because if I go one way, there's gonna be so many fucking people hurt. If I go that way, it can be the same. Like how do I make this decision? Where do I draw this reference line from? And it was my values, man. And so yeah, there's been a few of those moments of like big moments in my life in the past 7 years where I've had to really lean on something. It's like, how do I lean on this? How if I make this decision, how will I not regret this for the rest of my fucking life? And that's the answer is if you in alignment with your values, you can never ever regret it because you're living in your truth. And that was a big thing too, bro. Because
Yeah,
back up until these moments, I was a fucking people pleaser, dude, doing everything for everyone else. And just my values were, yeah, this is a big thing, man. It was always my wife, my children, and men's work before myself. And then that's when I had to realize that, oh man, my health and my spirituality have to become before everything because I'm leading all of those things. And if I don't have that, who the fuck am I as a man?
So why do you think it is that men struggle to ask for what they want? You know, what is it they truly want in life? You know, and whether that's in relationships or what they want from themselves. Because like you, I was a people pleaser. I made a lot of mistakes. You know, I still do. But I find it. Why is it so difficult to just actually ask for what they want?
Yeah, I feel there's a few things, man. Like number one, the fear of rejection. And so there would have been a time tied to childhood or a trauma or something where we asked for something and we didn't get it, or like it might have been we always craved dad to, like, for me, I've always wanted my dad to say he's proud of me, yet he never has. I've never heard those words come in my dad's mouth. So, like, I'm a fucking overachiever, dude. And so that's been conditioned in me. And so I've got to really manage that, because if I don't, then my family loses out because I just get super hyper focused doing stuff. So I think that fear of rejection is a big one. The it's interesting too, man. Like, if we go like in relationships, like asking for what we need with intimacy, not just sexual intimacy right now, but like connection with their partners. A lot of men struggle with that, man. And so, yeah, there's a vulnerability piece to that, of like being raw and like allowing somebody deeply in. I know with like some mates, man, it took me a long time to really ask, like, my dear mates that I have, like, hey, I want this relationship to go to another level. Like, I want more depth. I want you guys to call me forward more. I want us to know deeply more about each other. Like that only happened like last year, man. That was like 38. They asked that of some like male friends of mine. But yeah, I think that fear of rejection is a really big one. The other thing too, man, is coming back to that. Some men don't know what they don't know. Some men have never even fucking questioned themselves, like, is this actually what or they've just succumbed to life, that their life is mediocre and this is all that they get to have, because they don't value themselves and they think this is it. This is my life. And they haven't even popped their head up and gone, fuck, I just want some change. So some men don't even know what it is that they want. They don't even know what it is that they desire. And like I mentioned before, the things that I wanted and desired, it was to impress my dad or get the love of the girl or that kind of thing. And it wasn't until I found men's work and people challenged me and seen my intention behind it, or where that was coming from, that I was actually able to see, like, this isn't really what I want. This is just filling a void. I'm trying to buy love here. I'm trying to get respect here, or that kind of thing, from other people rather than my internal fulfillment.
Yeah. Do you think societal expectations kind of play a role in that, and what we are expected to be as a man, what we're expected to do, because I could go down a rabbit hole with the whole school thing. I probably agree with you, because the schools aren't, I don't believe that they're teaching our children to be creative and express what it is that they want. But even with, like, I was told to go and get a trade. I was never educated about, was told about university or anything like that. And, most of the people I knew got a trade, so it wasn't what they wanted. It was what we were expected to do with our life.
100%, man. Same thing happened to me in here. So in Australia, we get to grade 12 and then you go to university, and back when I was at school, it was you go get a trade or you go to university. And so and they had to pick that when you're in grade 10. So when you're like 15, 16 years old, you have to go, are you getting a trade or are you going to university? University was called the OP. Can't remember what that stands for, but you had to get an OP. And so that were the only two fucking options. There wasn't an option of find what you're passionate about and turn that into a business. That was not even an option, man. It was a trade or the university. So yeah, 100%. It's like definitely stifled and conditioned that way. Also, there's a lot. Why I feel that we are in a generation of people pleasers, where there's so many men that are just and I know might trigger a few people, but there's so many men walking around with their fucking nuts in their partner's handbag, bro. That they've got to have her permission for everything. They don't follow their dreams or their passion. Like it's just. And I say that because I was one of those men up until I met my wife, man. And I met her when I was 32. And there's millions of men like this. So I'm not talking out of school. Though, if we look back into history, like our grandparents, like our great grandfather or grandfather, went to war. And so these men came back from war, saw horrific shit, had to do horrific stuff as teenage boys. Some of them lied to be there. And so they're like teenagers, man, having to kill people and take lives and seeing their mates die, like physically die. And then they come back. And so these men walled up. They didn't talk about their emotions to their wives and their partners just to protect them. And so then our fathers grew up with that, like, cool, dad's stoic, dad's got to go to work. And so same as us, we grew up with mum's version of what it meant to be a man.
Yeah.
And so that it's really, really, really stifled of like what masculinity is. What does it mean to be a man? And then we put into like the consumerism things that we've been going through as a society or as a race, like bigger, better, faster, stronger, and that materialistic stuff of like that what do you call, like the Hollywood dream, man. So go to university, like get a good job, go to university, get a great job, buy the house, buy picket fence, get the wife, get the kid, then you'll be happy. Get the boat and the car. And that's just a fucking hollow dream, because all of that stuff is external of how we actually feel. And so, yeah, man, there's so many, and that's like Hollywood's a big player of that, man. The government system's a big thing. And then also, I think just the generations have changed, man, from just the way that the world's working at the moment, because how our dads and our dads, like, they did the best they can with everything that was available to them. Yet we live in this era, the men that are alive right now, especially our age, is that what's expected of us is starting to change, man. There's more requirements on men, more than fucking ever. Because back with our dads, you go to work, that's you provide for the family. But now we're expected to do that, but we're also expected to provide emotional support, and there's more pressure upon us, I feel, as men right now. And that I feel that's why there's so many men that feel lost as well.
Yeah.
So yes, there's so many men not asking for what they need, but there's so many men that feel fucking lost. Like, where do I fit in this world? Like, what's my role here right now? I remember, bro, I'm really hands-on with my kids. And so we did calm birthing. I'm not sure if you guys have that over in the UK. So calm birthing is like hypnobirthing type thing, is like being consciously there with the birth of our children. So I was going to the prenatal sessions and everything with my wife, and we went in the private hospital system too. So I thought it would have been a little bit different than the government system in the public hospital. And it was exactly like personal development workshops. There's like maybe 30 women in this class and 3 dads. So me and 2 other dudes. And because all the other dads are at work. Then they're teaching us all this stuff, and we go into the birthing suite. And I'm like, hey, when we get into here, as we're coming in, water's broken, we're coming in, what's my role right here? How do I help? And the lady turned around to me, man, and she goes, oh, you're the dad. It's your dad. It's your job to change all the shitty nappies. And all the women laughed and like, oh, that's awesome. That's really funny. Yet this is the exact representation that I see in society right now. That there's men wanting to fucking find their way and ask, hey, what do you expect of us? How do we do that? And no one can give us a fucking straight answer, and that we're being ridiculed. So yeah, that was, had a bit of my bonnet around that. But yeah, that's a couple of answers there for you, man.
So because I agree with you 100% there. Now, how does, a man unlock that authentic masculinity? How does they look at it and say, right, this is what it, because there's so many mixed things of what it is to be a man. You've got this toxic masculinity, this, and this, but how does somebody be an authentic masculine man?
Yeah, man. So what we call in MindFit, we call it the inside out game, man. So to unpack it, is a lot of men and women here, but I'll just keep it as men. So a lot of men, we're husbands, we're fathers, some of us are business owners or employees. We may be, like me, a surfer, martial artist. We may do podcasts. We may be a father, a son. There's all these hats that we wear. Another hat for me was rugby league star. So there's all these hats that we wear. These hats are called identities. Now, a lot of men buy into these identities of like, that's who you are as a man. And so if we really want to look at like, what's your true masculinity, my true masculinity, we need to go beneath all of those hats and figure out who's the man that's wearing those hats. And this is what I mean by that inside out game, is like coming back. Who are you at your core? What do you stand for? What are your morals? What are your standards? What are your values? What are your boundaries? What are your non-negotiables? Where do you want to be going in life? How do you want to be like on your deathbed? How do you want to be respected or known for? Like those kind of bigger questions will get to the essence of like that masculinity. And my big thing, man, is that we can't be boxed either. And so there's versions. There's going to be many different versions of masculinity it's got to be up to the individual yeah, man, because there's like I see some stuff on social media at the moment around alpha males, and it's like they're recreating the alpha male, but a lot of it's got to do also with the way they look with their physique, which I disagree with. Yes, I understand to be healthy. I really I understand my health, but it doesn't have to go to an extreme level as well. So I don't think that you have to be jacked or yoked to be a masculine man. So there's this that we've really got to decipher that for ourselves. There is some sort of things that I think that are like through lines for most men. And one of them is just to know your values and live truly by them, to be integral to your word, follow through with what you're going to say. To be trusted, man. And the way that I figured that out, and this is how we teach in MindFit Gym, this is how I've been taught with all the men's teams that I've been involved in, is that we're all mirrors of each other. And so when I was trying to figure out who the fuck I was, because I was 32, bro, 32 years old, baby on the way, and I felt like a boy. I did not feel like a man standing on my own 2 feet. I was super fucking scared. It's literally why I started a men's circle, bro. It was called Dads and Dads to Be. So I wanted to circle around with some dads that were conscious dads to ask them, how the fuck do I do this? Like, how do I navigate all of this? And so I just lost the tangent, man. But yeah, I've just gone blank.
No, that's cool. Because you were just talking about how you started the men's group, but we were talking about how to be an authentic man. You know, you were just saying about
Yes, that's
trusting
right, man.
yourself.
So I was like a young boy. I felt like a boy at 32. Like, who the fuck am I? I didn't know who I was, and it was because I didn't understand myself. I didn't know what made me tick. I didn't understand my triggers. Another thing too, man, is like I didn't really know my emotions. This is a big one, bro, that I've only been sort of working the past 6-7 years with. If like I'd say like, oh, I'm angry, but I wasn't angry. If I went deeper than the anger, I felt I was feeling rejected or betrayed or something like that. So just like really getting to know myself, that was the big thing, man. And the way that I did that was being circled around other men that were on that same journey, some of them further along the path than what I was. And then I was able to, they were reflecting to me parts of myself that I'd forgotten about. And I started remembering, gathering back that information like, this is who the fuck I am.
Brilliant, mate. And that's just kind of, you're just shedding the old identity, and that's just embracing the vulnerability, you know, and that takes strength, you know, to embrace that. And what would you say about taking ownership of your life? Because for me, I was a master of blame. I blamed everybody. You know, it was never my fault. And I
Yeah.
actually had this conversation with my daughter yesterday, and she's only 9. And I told her that she has to be responsible for everything in her life, because she was saying about the room's a mess. It wasn't her, it was somebody else. But I was like, it's your room, right? So you're responsible for that room, end of. But, and when the conversation was great with her, but when I look back and I was like, because I was saying to her, I blamed everybody, but I was a common denominator in all situations. So,
Yeah.
you know, what role does taking that ownership and, you know, and
Oh,
being, just being saying, this is fucking me, it's my fault, I've done this, or just, yeah, you know, the power of that extreme ownership.
100%, man. That I think that, and this is something that that we're really missing in this generation and this culture is like initiations. So I really feel that's when we become a man. Is when we take ownership, responsibility of our thoughts, speech, actions, emotions. We stop blaming the fucking world, and we lead life from a place of doing it for something far greater than ourselves, i.e., for our family, for humanity or for the greater good. I think boy mentality, especially when I was like 32, it's like you, man, blaming the fucking world. Everything was everyone else's fault. All the opportunities that I don't have is because of society and the governments and all this kind of stuff, like giving my power out to everyone. But it wasn't until I swallowed the hard pill. And the way that I swallowed the hard pill, man, has got some really stern feedback from a mentor. And he said to me, do you realize that everything that happens everything that happens to you in your life is your fault? And it's like, oh, it's like, because you're not fucking taking ownership of it. The way people treat you, the way you're spoken to, the way there's no opportunities coming your way, that's all your fucking fault, dude. And it's just like, oh, damn. And so that was that big life-changing moment. Like, oh, well, I've got to go get fucking after it. I've got to take responsibility. The way that I feel is my fault. The way that the money in the bank, that's my fault. The relationships in my life, that's my fault. And so, yeah, that radical ownership, man, that was a big piece of it. And I think that's really, I really feel like that's that true line of like, cool, you want to step into manhood, you got to step into that ownership and responsibility. I think that's a really big piece, man.
Yeah, and because that was when I know when my life changed, when I took ownership. And my mum she loved me, unconditionally. And when I look at, what I put her through, and she's, when I talk to her now, we have good conversations because she loved me, and she never kind of discarded me, but she would
Mm-hmm.
believe me when I would blame everybody else. And it was
Mm-hmm.
not, and that's what kind of enabled me for so long. And it's not my mum's fault whatsoever. It's totally my manipulating mind. But then,
Yep.
what came after that was resentment. Resentment. Or within that for myself, resentment to
Mm-hmm.
this, that, and the next thing. And you've obviously probably experienced quite a lot of resentment. And I had it even with my wife, not that long ago. And
Mm-hmm.
how do you deal with that? How do you let go of resentment, whether it's in a marriage or just personally?
Mm-hmm.
Because when I used to go to AA, they say resentment's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And they also say it's a number one offender for relapse. So resentment is
Mm-hmm.
a huge thing. What's your experience with
Yep.
that, and how do you deal with it?
Oh man, it's it definitely definitely been really present, man. And like I was like you, bro, blaming the world and resenting people for it and blaming everyone. But I'd like to offer a different perspective, especially with my marriage. Um, so when resentment builds up from my behalf towards my wife in our relationship, I understand that I'm not taking ownership of myself. Now, what I mean by that is that if everything's running smoothly, I'm looking after myself, I'm eating clean, I'm sober, I'm taking time out, as in like I'm doing jujitsu, I'm going for my surfs, I'm taking quality time out, hanging out with my mates, doing workshops, looking after myself as a man, as an individual. The resentment's not fucking there, man, because I'm happy as fuck. It's like I could be in you could do anything. We'll sort it out. Everything's kosher. But the moments that I get caught in the grind, in the hustle of work, not getting good sleep, maybe eating unhealthy, tired, all that kind of stuff, and just stacking and not looking after myself, that's when the resentment keeps stacking. And then for me, it gets to a point that resentment turns into a volcano, explodes, and then I'm fucking trying to heal something that if I just took responsibility of myself, it wouldn't be there. If I just took ownership of my life, it wouldn't be there. And so yeah, it's my wife can see the times, and she's like, can pick it. She picks it before I see it. She's like, you're about to fucking burn out. Like just I've got the kids, go for a surf. And like the amount of times, man, she'll just tell me, go sort your shit out. I've got the kids. And like, because she knows, man, when I go and look after myself and I go for a surf and get in the ocean, just the salt water, be in the fresh air, not thinking about business, not thinking about the family or the kids, that I'm such a better man when I come back. So she encourages me to have solo time, bro. So yeah, I
So
noticed that. And a lot of men notice that too, that we talk to about resentment.
And that's amazing that you have that relationship with your wife. And how important is that communication? Where you know each other's kind of strong points, weak points, so you can spot each other's kind of blind spots. And and you proactively work to make each other stronger. And that, how did that? How did you manage to get to that point? Was it deep conversations,
Through
therapy?
failures, bro. Yep. Through all of it, bro. Through failures, and yeah. So we've had relationship coaches. We've been to relationship counselling, and then we also we have a lot of tools ourselves, man. So we're constantly working on our relationship, and so we've got some really cool tools that we always lean on, man, and revisit and stuff. And one of the big things, man, was that. And this is why I highly recommend this for every couple, especially if you have kids, is that we have a regular date day every week. It's a non-negotiable, and so it comes before, it comes on top of it's as important as me going to the gym or doing jiu-jitsu, or it's like Anna's work, because it's like sometimes before we had date day, work would get over the top of it, so I wasn't making this date day sacred. And then some feedback I got from, and this may resonate with men that have this, you already have a date day locked in. And so some feedback I got from when we did relationship counseling, when we did relationship coaching, is that I was turning up to date day, but I was ticking the box like it was an item to do with my business. So I was there, but not really there. And then the feminine can pick up on the energy. And it was just, yeah, the feedback I kept getting was, you're here, you're making the time, but you're not here, you're not present. I'm not feeling your connection. So that was a big thing, man. So date day was that big thing, man. And then we've both because we've been in the work together, man, we understand how important communication is. So one of the things that we do with date day is, before we go on date day, it's like especially with kids, man, it can get gnarly, man, that we don't actually get to drop in and have a conversation. It might be in the morning a little bit, and then we're knackered at night. So it might go 3 or 4 days without actually like clearing the air on certain things. So yeah, on date day, before date day, hey, is there anything that you want to get off your chest? Do I need to support you in any area? And we'll go through that, man. And sometimes it's like, okay, cool, we're just staying home today. There's no date day. We're going to nut this shit out. And we'll go through fire ceremonies or letting go ceremonies, or like lean on the tools that we have, man. But yeah, communication is like really important, man. And with the communication too, one thing I'd like to, for your listeners, is I see a lot of men get lost in their communication because they don't understand who they are as an individual, and they don't know their standards and their boundaries and their non-negotiables. So within in their communication, as I was saying, with their nuts in their handbag, they get railroaded in the conversation, and so they're always compromising and giving up their own terms. And so there's where a lot of resentment lies, undercurrent lies. So that was a big thing of me claiming back territory within our relationship and within my standards, and having some really uncomfortable conversations. I literally put a post up today. Would you rather be liked or respected as a man? And that comes down to a conversation we had in our men's team about this, about how many times that we just want to be liked by our partner, that we don't ask for what it is that we need. We don't say, hey, this is a non-negotiable. This is not okay, because we just want to be liked, because we can't upset mum, and that our partner is a big trigger for our mum. Whereas she would prefer, and most people would prefer, if we were firm in our boundaries, even if there was a bit of conflict there, eventually that conflict would settle, and there's more trust with someone that's respected, because you know who they are. It's like, these are my terms. And so, yeah, and I'd love to share. This is a bit of a raw one, and I'm not speaking out of school, because my wife and I have shared this on a different podcast, is that we have a boundary within our relationship, because we've both been unfaithful in previous relationships, that if we ever catch ourselves looking at the opposite sex and fantasizing about, so if I'm fantasizing about women or she's fantasizing about men, that we'll openly declare that to each other and sit down and hold space for each other, because we don't want to cheat on each other. Dude, that's been she's said that to me twice in our relationship, and I've said it once, and it's like, you want to do some men's work? Fucking sit in that conversation, bro. It was super triggering, but super cathartic. And then what that's done is built a really solid trust within each other. It's like, man, we can talk about anything, because we can hold that space. We can speak truth to each other, and we're not going to judge each other. We're not trying to justify or get away from this or blame the other person. We're going to sit in this and we'll work it out. So communication is really big, man. Really, really
Wow.
big.
That's, I've never heard anything like that before, bro. And jealousy, jealousy is a monster. For
Oh,
me,
bro.
it
Yeah, man.
destroyed basically every relationship I've had, and even up right now in my marriage. Thank goodness we're at a place where it's not. But a couple of years ago, I would think my wife was cheating on me. She was doing this, and
Mm,
she's looking after two children. She's working a job. She's not even giving me any signs. But my mind is overactive because of who I am and because of
mm-hmm,
what I'm thinking, and
mm-hmm,
not, and I'm putting it on her. So
mm.
for you to speak to Melanie like that, that's another level, and that must have been hard as a man to sit there and to discuss that with your wife,
Yeah, man.
and
Especially, yeah, like you, man. Meeting my wife, I was super insecure, dude. Super fucking jealous. Like I didn't have social media for a couple of years, dude, because it used to feed. It was that big of a demon for me. Like I was like go on my ex's page, look at a post, look at the comments, find a dude, and then find him, look at his profile photo, compare myself to him, and then attack her. How do you know this dude? When did you meet him? And just like what the it was just yuck, man. It was so yuck. And I didn't know why I was doing it, man. And it was deeply because I was so insecure and hadn't forgiven myself for all the stuff that I'd done and what I used to do and how I used to objectify women and all that kind of stuff. And so that's what I needed to do, man. That's how I got past it. I needed to actually go and forgive myself and heal myself and go working on myself and start cultivating what was being talked about, man, is like being unapologetically myself, authentically myself, knowing, and this is the big things like, man, I can't control anyone. If she goes cheat, I as much as it would suck, I know deep down that I'll be fucking good.
yeah,
Back before I met my wife, every relationship before that, man, if that partner cheated on me, I'd be a fucking mess. Life would crumble because I put so much emphasis on she completed me because I didn't feel whole. Whereas now I feel whole, I'm good. I know she won't cheat on me, man. If it did happen or we broke up, I know it would hurt, but I'd be good. I'd be okay. The To sit in those conversations, man, yeah, bro, it brought up a lot of stuff, man, a lot of stuff. The big thing, man, that's helped my journey over the past 7 years, getting through my jealousy and getting past it and getting rid of it, is these moments that people have hit on my partner or they've looked at her or it was so funny, man. I took the family away for a family holiday recently, and where I took her was where her and one of her boyfriends used to go, and it was just like back 7-8 years ago, that would have triggered the fuck out of me, man, like really bad. But it brought some stuff up for me, man. And so I was like, hey, and when the kids went to sleep, like, hey, I've got to talk. There's some stuff here for me. Can we talk about some stuff? And so I was able to, rather than I used to, was to try and manipulate and make myself feel better through her telling me stories that were controlling. This time I was just able to talk about, hey, I'm really a bit insecure right now. I'm feeling like you're going to judge the time when you were there versus when I'm here, and you're going to compare and all that kind of stuff. So I was able to talk from an open perspective. But yeah, man, it's been a journey, bro. Like it's been super rocky, super hard at times, but the celebrating those little moments of like catching those things, man, and there's moments where we've been in a shopping center, man, and like an ex of hers has come up and said hello, and I just noticed what's alive in my body. It's like, oh, there's nothing there anymore. Fuck, that's amazing, man. Just keep giving myself that pat in the back, bro. I was like, cool. That all of those, like that hard work is paid off, bro. I think that's a big thing that men forget, is to celebrate ourselves.
oh, yeah,
It's so interesting, man. Why don't fucking men celebrate themselves?
yeah. And when it comes to the whole family dynamic, how has that fed through the family? Because you are obviously on such a good level, and children pick up off our energy, and they witness how the
Mm-hmm.
parents communicate and interact with each other. So and with your kids, what have you got? I think is it three? You've got three. You've
Yeah,
got
man.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how does that kind
Yep.
of blossom the children, you know, how to help see them kind of
Oh man,
elevate.
it's yeah, man. It's been super fucking beautiful, bro. Like super rewarding. And I'm going to mention a couple of things that where I fucked up as well because it's not all roses, but it's been so beautiful, man. Like our 5-year-old, even our 4-year-old, um, we had some people over and there was a heap of kids here on the weekend. It was like 8 kids. And my eldest boy, man, he's 5.5. He's like, hey guys, I just need some space right now. And so he went and took himself in the room because he could feel his emotions getting so erratic, man, that he went hard for a day. And it was just that next day, he's like, I just need some space. So we went and did that. He came up to me, man. He's starting school next year. And he was just playing up this one morning. It was like 2 weeks ago, like super aggressive with the kids. It was just out of character sort of thing. So, buddy, what's going on, man? So, oh, Daddy, I'm just really scared about starting. I'm really nervous about starting prep next year. I said, oh, why, man? He's like, oh, I'm just scared of making friends. I'm like, oh, buddy, I understand that. I've struggled with that and just openly talking about it, like what I've just told you guys about my friend Leon. And I didn't have friends, but I just know that I'm a kind man and I've got a good heart. And then the kindy's really cool, man. Myself and one of the teachers there started a fatherhood circle. So I reached out to Tyler and said, hey, bro, Bretthy's having a hard time with prep next year's feeling nervous. So they had like a circle upstairs at the kindy with all the kids that starting prep. And they opened up the space and there's like, what do you say? Tyler said, oh, you guys are starting prep next year. Does anyone want to bring anything up? And my boy went first, man, in front of all these kids. He's like, yeah, I'm feeling nervous about making new friends. I'm like, I had my boy at men's circles, man, when he's 6 years old in the middle of circles. He's been listening to men share their heart on my Zoom calls, and he's just been immersed in that, man. And then to see him do that in front of boys and girls is just like, man, pays so many dividends, bro. Like, and there's been times that I fucked up, like massively, bro. So there's like, and so I don't want to paint this picture that I'm this perfect dad. So I want to, one of them, man. So this is about maybe 4 months ago, maybe 4 months ago. So we bought this house that we're in now 5 months ago. All of his stuff was packed up in a box for a month in the rental before we moved in here. I've just pretty much gone back into construction. I know we were talking about this offline, man. Like putting a pool in and working like 12, 14-hour days, Saturday, Sunday on the home front. So I haven't been the father or the role model or present as the kids and family are used to. I've been tired as well. I've also the past 2 months, like I mentioned, alcohol came back in as well. Didn't get out of control, but I also know that my sleep weren't there. So that was also an impact. And there's about a 10-day stint, man, that at night we got bunk beds. So I put both boys to bed. He'd go to the toilet. Both boys do a wee before they go to bed. He'd get into bed and we're just about to go to sleep. And he's like, Daddy, I've weed the bed. I'm like, what, mate? And get up and he's like done a little spot wee on the bed. So I changed the sheets and it happened like 10 days in a row. And then this one night I was like, hey, buddy, like, what's going on, man? Like, you're a big boy, dude. You go to the toilet. And he's like, oh, Dad, I'm just really scared of you. I'm like, oh, what, buddy? And he's like, yeah, you yelled at me today. And so I just did a wee. And so what I realized is like, there was times where I was raising my voice, not being a conscious dad like I want to, and his nervous system got jacked. And it wasn't until he laid in bed and actually relaxed that his body was able to let go of that feeling, man. He did that through weeing. And so, man, that fucking hit me like a dagger in the heart, bro. That my boy was scared of me. It's just like, what the fuck, man? I'm trying so hard. And so the big thing that I've learned, man, is repair. And that this is something that my dad never did. He never said sorry. He never sort of apologized for the violence that I saw and that kind of stuff. So and my wife were big on repair, man, owning our shit. And so, yeah, the next day, I just like really owned it, that it wasn't okay. And so for the next week, when we went to bed, I was like, hey, buddy, before we go to sleep, is there anything that you'd like to declare? Is there anything on your heart you'd like to talk about? And a couple of those times, like, yeah, Daddy, I didn't like how you spoke to me today with X, Y, and Z. I'm like, oh, okay. Would you like to know why Daddy was a bit firm? And he's like, yeah. and then we talk about it. And so then he was able to understand that why I was enforcing certain boundaries, and the we stopped after like 7 days, man, and he hasn't done it since. But it's just opened up this really beautiful discussion for him and I. So now and Oki could witness, the younger boy could hear it, and he's like, "Daddy, I've got something on my heart too." And he's just crazy, man. Just like, I love ducks or I love the grass, but just being around that language, man. Is there anything on your heart? So yeah, it's been really beautiful, man. It's one of those things, bro, and there's been like, but it feels like we're butting our heads as parents, just again and again and again and again, trying to get a new behavior routine or something to happen, and it feels like we're failing or it's not working, and then all of a sudden the kid will just do that thing. And so one of the things that we've done, man, is when adults are talking, when the kids have got to come up and they've got to put their hand on on our arm or leg, that let us know that the kids are there. And then if we're still talking, we'll put our hand on top of their hand to let them know that we know that they're there, and they've got to wait there until Alice will finish that conversation, and then we'll have that conversation. And man, it was like months, like 4 or 5 months, we're just trying to get Breathy to do that. And then the one day he did it, man. It's just like, oh, bro, all of that effort and him not doing it and interrupting and just repeating myself again and again and again just pays off, bro. So I share that one with you, man, because that was, sorry.
No, I never said anything, bro. It's just that must be that delay
Oh,
again.
oh yeah. The why I shared that one, man, about the hand, because within our men's teams, that was something that that we talk about a lot, of like, what's the behavior we're trying to instill in our children that's not going really good right now, and we'd all laugh about it, and we'd make light of the situation, and like, cool, we're all fucking struggling right now, we have a laugh, let's get back into it and just keep being the best dads we can. So having support systems like that to lean on and just laugh with and encourage each other has been so amazing. Like, I know that men's work has been the greatest asset of my life, for my family, as a father, as for my business and everything, man. Just having men hold me accountable.
Yeah, bro. Listen, you're such an inspiration, to myself, and I know just by being in your community, being on your page about with other men, and seeing the feedback from your bloke ventures, your MindFit, I see it all the time, and this is why, I think it's so important for men to get to a point where they reach out and see that they might need help in a certain area, and go to the men like you who's doing it. Not just doing it. They've been doing it for a long time. They've lived it. They've went through it themselves, because, like you said about the physio, the psychologist, I think it was, that they never disclosed anything to you, so there was no trust there. But when you're going in and you're bearing your stuff, and you're being open, honest, vulnerable, and also when you're getting feedback, you're taking that feedback on, or because I've seen plenty of posts where you've done a live video about something that's happened where you've been at fault, or there's been a realization, and it's just having that awareness to be in that place to say, right, you know what, I need a bit of help, and who do I go to get it? And they come across people like yourself. But because I won't keep you much longer, bro. But if somebody was, let's just say some guys, he's got to a point where he's looking to do something about his life, right? He wants to, he wants to move forward. He wants to create a vision. He wants to get, mentally, physically well. Where would they find you? What would you suggest to them?
Yeah, man. So my website, so blazegrinner.com, you can find all the stuff there. Though I just tell everyone, man, just hit me up on Messenger. I answer everyone. So just find me on Facebook. I'm really, really lucky because there's only one of me, because of the way that my mum spelt my name. So yeah, Blase Grinner. And then, just reach out, have a chat, and then we just go backwards and forwards. I answer everyone on Messenger, and so direct contact to me. And so, we can just have a chat that way. What I always suggest for people, whether it's me, whether it's another coach, is there's a lot of noise in the personal development and men's work space at the moment. As it's a big industry, and there's a lot of. I just want to make sure that you do your due diligence. and do your own research. So the way that I offer people to do that, like you mentioned, man, I happily talk about when I fuck up. I happily talk about when life's not going well. I see a lot of people on social media only speak about the highlight reels, and they sit on top of perches. And for me, it's just like, well, I don't really trust that person. It's like the psychologist, I'm only going to give them 70% of the truth. So what I always say is like, go on someone's profile and scroll on the and read or listen to or watch the last 10 of their posts. And I think within 10 of their posts, you should get a really good gauge of who they are. And then, just find people that are doing what it is where you want to go. Like find people that are like lived experience, not just teaching or regurgitating shit out of a book, but they're actually living the life or being the man or leading that life that you want to have. Just do your due diligence. I also see some people, I've seen it recently, man. This dude was just raving on about this coach, and he was like, and this coach ripped me off. I didn't get the results, all this kind of stuff. And then one of the things was he's like, oh yeah, and he didn't have a website. I was like, that's on you, bro. Like, where's your fucking ownership on that? Like, did you do your due diligence? If this dude didn't have a website, where are you going to get all the references from and all that kind of stuff? Like, there's an ownership piece of that. So, yeah, man. Do that if you're listening. Just be wary. Have a chat. Reach out on Messenger.
I'll have all your links in the description anyway, brother. And I definitely would advise anyone that's looking to go that hit Blase up, because that's how I got in touch with him. And he was more than accommodating for me on more than one occasion. He gave me his time, so it's and I'm not just saying that because he's on the podcast. He's genuinely a top guy. But I'll have all the links in the description and everything. And just one last thing, is there anything that we haven't covered that you would like to discuss, bro?
Just that first step. I know I know how daunting that first step can be. And I think that we've covered everything, but if we could just summarize everything, I always look at like the thing that we mentioned around celebration, like men don't celebrate themselves. So I just want to mention like that there's millions and hundreds of millions of men on this planet that will never ever stick their fucking head up out of the sand and want change in their life. So if you've stuck your head up and you're at the crossroads right now of like, fuck, I don't know where to go. I'm feeling lost. I don't know my direction. What's my purpose on life? How do I get my marriage back to where it was? How do I get this business going? Whatever it is, know that you're actually looking for change. And so you're at a point that to celebrate, so many men don't celebrate that. I just want you to know that there's hundreds of millions of men that will never get to that point in their fucking life. They'll just keep grinding and trudging and have a mediocre or miserable existence or just surviving. But if you're at that moment of like putting your head up, fucking celebrate that, bro, because you act like you cannot change what you cannot see. So right now you're at this moment of like, cool, I'm looking for something different. Like celebrate that. But then don't just sit too long in those spectator seats either. You got to take action on it. So I see a lot of people like get that crossroads and they stay at the crossroads for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and the same shit just keeps looping and looping and looping. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Of finding men's work, finding a men's team, men in my life that I can trust. Hence why I've made a life out of it. Because I know that I'm a better man, and the people around me get a better me when I've got men holding me accountable.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you there. And just with the MindFit that the program, the MindFit Gym, that's So what is it? And I know it's not just like a one-time program. It's a continuous thing where you're going to offer connection, brotherhood for as long as they want, right?
Yeah, man. So it's a minimum 12 months. So it's a minimum 12 months to come into the membership. The way it works is we do weekly calls, so weekly online Zoom calls, which are group coaching. The first 28 days, we take you through what we call foundational training. so that you learn the language that everyone's using inside the membership. So otherwise you get in the membership like, what the fuck are these dudes talking about below the line consciousness? What the fuck does that mean? What is the addicted lover? What does that mean? So we teach you about all of these frameworks that we use through there, and that you come through that portal with the Men in Foundational Training. Then when you graduate that, we split you into what we call a King's Table. So we split you into small teams. And now this is something that a lot of men's work don't have, because we've got a beautiful team. We're able to actually have small intimate groups. So yeah, King's Tables, there's 10 men. There's a lead coach and a foundational coach. So the foundational coach is a lead man in training. And then you go through that journey together with those 10 men over that year-long journey. And then there's modules, videos, workbooks for you guys to work through, and weekly calls to get hot seat coaching. Once a month, we do master classes. So I get my coaches and mentors and my other my lead coaches, mentors and everything. We get them in, run master classes. And then we also, here in Australia too, we do the retreats part of it. So the Blokes Fence retreat is part of the membership, and we're going to be expanding that as well. So we're looking at, we'll be overseas very, very shortly. But yeah, it's a really powerful space. The content that we teach and all the stuff is phenomenal. It's like really life-changing stuff, these tools that you get to add to your tool belt, and on all the different areas of life. So we really have encapsulated the holistic, by holistic is WHOLE, like the whole of manhood, in all of the modules and everything. But one of the biggest things that we get a lot of feedback about is just the brotherhood, the camaraderie that happens, of like the men in these King's Tables, of this brothers for life that have each other's back, and that they have really rekindled trust in masculinity again, trust in men again, and then most importantly, trust in themselves, so that they can be the man that they wish to be in this world, and like have a fucking thriving life, man, living life on their terms.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. So anybody that's that sounds appealing to, because I know it sounds appealing to me, and hit him up, as he said, on Messenger, or I'll put all the links in the description. And listen, Blase, thank you very much, brother, for sharing your wisdom, your time, and your presence here. I truly appreciate you. Thank you, my man.
Much love, man. Thanks for having me, bro.
I just want to close with a big, massive thank you. See, Project Reinvented has never been about me. It's always been about you, the listener who's looking to improve their life. So with that, I just want to express my sincere gratitude to each and every one of you for not only listening, but your continued support. Project Reinvented wouldn't exist without your presence, so thank you. My goal is to make this as personal to you as possible, so your feedback is invaluable to me, always welcomed and always appreciated. So as we go on this journey together, remember, the art of reinvention doesn't always demand big, massive leaps. See, big change starts with small steps. So think about this. What's one small action you can take today that will reignite your journey of life reinvention? Make that decision to take that step. See, life's a canvas, reinvention's the art, and you're the artist. So start creating. See you next week.